Say you've just updated your website, maybe a fresh blog post, a critical CSS fix, or even a new feature, but you hit refresh and nothing's changed, so your browser still shows the old version. Well, this is usually a typical stale content problem caused by caching, and this is especially common with CDNs like AWS CloudFront. So using AWS CloudFront as an example, your content is cached at edge locations around the world to serve visitors faster and reduce load on your origin server. So as an example here, so you have a user in the USA, in Europe, or in Asia, there will be specific edge locations for these regions, and the content they receive could be cached from this edge location as opposed to coming directly from the origin, which would have the updated content. So what this essentially means is that caching comes with a catch, and that's that CloudFront, or whatever CDN you're using, typically doesn't know when your content has changed unless you tell it that it has. So by default, CloudFront respects TTL, or time to live settings, that determine how long cached objects remain fresh. If your content changes on the origin before the TTL expires, users may still get the old cached version, which is stale content. So how to fix this? There are of course multiple ways. One could be to set appropriate cache TTLs. So make sure your cache policy specifies sensible time to lives. For rapidly changing content, you could use shorter TTLs or even bypass caching. You can also invalidate your cache when your content changes. So when you update your website or backend, you can send an invalidation request to CloudFront, which would tell it to immediately purge cached objects and fetch fresh content on the next request. Of course, there are many ways to do this. So one could be just from the command line, you could run AWS CloudFront, create an invalidation, provide your CloudFront distribution ID, and then specify the paths that you want to invalidate. So this would be every single path, but say you could do dash images or dash CSS, whatever you want to do. And then, of course, if you're using Terraform, it makes it really easy to invalidate your cache by creating a CloudFront cache policy. So here we have a resource, CloudFront cache policy. I'm just going to call it short TTL, because what we're doing here is essentially messing with these values here, setting a max time to live for 2 minutes, allowing a really short cache, things like that. So you just attach this cache policy to your CloudFront distribution to reduce how long content stays cached. Another thing you can do that's an even easier way, and I've seen it been used a few times, is used versioned URLs for your static assets. So for example, you could add in a version right here in the file name. So you could do .v2, .v4. And so if you do that, CloudFront will just treat it as a new object and it will fetch the fresh content automatically, so you won't even need to perform an invalidation. I want to thank you for liking and subscribing. Check out my courses and content in the description. Take it easy.